So I did my senior project on positive psychology. Not very many people know what positive psychology. Oh, I forgot my clicker. Not very many people know what positive psychology is. You kind of just like assume like, oh, positive, showing optimism and confidence, and then psychology, which is the study of the mind and behavioral characteristics in an individual. But the Positive Psychology Center defines it as a scientific study of human flourishing and an applied approach to optimal functioning. So it's grounded in the belief that people want to lead meaningful lives. Long story short, it's studying how optimism in attitude affects the brain and behavior. So, Arden, why are you doing something on positive psychology? You're not very positive sometimes. Like, what are you doing? Funny story. I was actually nominated one of the worst cases of senioritis by the yearbook, which is a little sad. But I would come into school being like, oh, I don't want to be here, get me out of here, when do I graduate? This was like second week of school. So, granted, positivity isn't really my thing, but I was like, hey, 4 free periods to do a senior project, awesome. Might as well make the most of it and try to improve my attitude towards school as well as others' attitude towards school. So, why positive psychology? Obviously, senioritis, everyone has it, starting from like sophomore year. I wanted to change the attitude we have towards school. I didn't want to motivate people to do schoolwork because that's totally not my thing, but I wanted to motivate them to want to be in school, be present, be positive, not really school work. So, also there is a mental illness problem, especially like on the island that I found. 14% of high school students in the U.S. are depressed at any given time, which is a very scary statistic considering like we're all high school students, so if 100 of us were in a room, 14 of us would be depressed, which is scary, and positive psychology could potentially combat it. So the science behind it, I have a little video for you so that it can explain it a little better.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Alright, so as you can see from the video, habits are super important and a part of our daily lives from everything you do is a habit, from tying your shoe to eating with a fork to driving home from school. All habits because we do them over and over and over again in the same way, therefore strengthening the connections in our brain. So I read a book, The Power of Habit, and it was telling me how basal ganglia, the blue thing right here, is a essential part about habits, and that whole little section of the brain can store emotional reaction, and short-term to long-term memory, which is also essential in habits because it's, like the video said, strengthening the connections and making that root. So you can work out your brain by doing the same path over and over again. So if you want to change a negative thought into a positive thought, you have to keep doing the positive thought, which is the idea behind the whole senior project. So I found out about positive psychology through Authentic Happiness by the University of Pennsylvania. And Dr. Martin E. Seligman is the director and professor, and he does a bunch of research on positive psychology. That's also where I found my questions for my questionnaire that you'll see in a second. And it also has links to research and initiatives and resources. So if you want to check it out after this, go for it. I recommend it. So what did I do with my 4 free periods every single day? I got my senior class homeroom together, which is like, I think I tested about 14 people. And I would go in there every morning, write on the board my quote, my tasks, and what I want to think about for the day. And so my whole project consisted of a pre-survey to get a baseline of their happiness, and quotes, tasks, and then a post-survey to get the experiment going. So my hypothesis was positive psychology will impact a group of high school senior students in a positive way. Yeah. So my observational study, my questions tested for happiness, gratitude, and what motivates them. And so I had a questionnaire of probably 10 questions, and all variety from gratitude to happiness. Then I found that students had an average happiness rating of 7.57 on a scale of 1 being not happy, like at all, to 10 being very happy on a daily basis. So it's like, it's like okay, I guess. And students were only happy about, I found, like 51 to 60% of the time on a daily basis. So I asked them to do what percent of the time are you happy, unhappy, and neutral? So 51 to 60%, which is slightly concerning because we spend 44.6% of the time we're awake in school. So if you think about it, people are like, All right, and then the quote I would write on the board would try to provoke them to have a positive thought. Like the first thing they come into school seeing is this quote, and the tasks to help promote the positive thought first thing in the morning instead of, oh, I don't want to be here. So some of them consist of, the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. Oprah. And then feel free to read the rest if you want. Okay. I would also write the tasks and what I want them to think about, and this would also promote positivity and self-awareness and making others feel good. So in the morning I would say, oh, write down 5 things you're grateful for. Now, after you've written them down, go out today and try to thank or show appreciation to those things. Or we did a 2-minute meditation, and I asked them to use those breathing methods when provoked by a situation where you want to immediately react emotionally, and try to take a breath and calmly do it. So these are trying to promote self-awareness and gratitude. So yeah. The results, it kind of worked. I'm gonna say it could have been better if I got a group of people who were willing and ready and able to be like, yes, I want to improve my life in a positive way, and not a bunch of seniors that are like, why are you doing this? I want to leave. Please stop talking. So, yes. But I did find that it increased from 7.57 to 8.03 average happiness, which is awesome, but not a big leap from the original. So I want to get more people who are willing and students who want to participate. But I did find in the feedback survey that I got that most people really enjoyed making others feel good. So take that into consideration when you're going throughout your day and you're like, oh, I'm having a crappy day. And be like, oh, maybe I can make someone else feel good and that'll make me feel good. And keep doing it over so it becomes a habit. So my plans for the future, I would really like to introduce this school-wide. I know we play music over the loudspeaker sometimes, but I would also like for the quote of the day to be spread along the PA thing, and also written or on the smartboard of every homeroom, so that the first thing everybody sees when they walk into school is this positive message, so that it provokes them and is like, okay, positive, I can have a positive day today. Awesome. I would also like peer outreach. I know Amy runs peer outreach in the fall. If they could have positive psychology training and help lead the tasks, like the write down 5 things you're grateful for type of things in homeroom every single day, or at least once a week, and I think that would really help. So I want to continue creating a habit of positivity, but start it in school. Questions?
So have you incorporated this into your own life, and do you no longer have senioritis?
Oh, I will always have senioritis.
You're
Until
just
I
thinking
graduate.
more positively about it?
I am thinking more positively. I do every single day when I come across like a situation where I want to react negatively, I take a moment and just think about, okay, I can strengthen my positivity path and think about this situation in a positive light. So I've tried to do it. It hasn't been 100% successful, but.
And is that something new since you started doing this research, or have you always been like that?
Oh no, I react to things very negatively sometimes, and very quickly. So I did try to take into consideration time. Yeah. Yeah.
What questions do you have at the end of this project that you would like to explore further? What kinds of things did it provoke you, especially in light of the tasks that you had people do, and what kinds of things, if you were to spend a semester on this project, where would you go from here?
If I were to spend a semester,
Or more than I know you spent a semester.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like a whole year. So.
I understand. Well, I'm really interested in the neuroscience of it, so I would really like to see what actually happens with the chemicals in your brain with positive psychology, and if it affects how much positivity chemicals are released. So I would like to
get into the science of it.
Yes.
Well, here we go. I have a couple things first to mention. First of all, please know that Arden has had 4 lacrosse games in a row and has been on time for school every morning, as I am the greeter at the back door. And each morning as I greet you, you always say good morning to me. So that is a great positive thing to start my day. So thank you. But for her to be here right now, existing on no sleep right this second and playing 4 straight games, I want to applaud you for that. But my question is, obviously, do you stop, first of all, do you stop and take your breath now if you're having an issue?
Yes. This morning I was taking several breaths, actually.
I watched that. Yeah.
But yes, I do try to take a breath before I say anything, so that it doesn't come out harsh anymore.
And the next thing, I love this idea, because I love the positive aspect of things, but you're talking about senioritis. And I think that it's great to put all these things on a smart board in the morning and also announce it over the PA. I've memorized it, and we all probably know it. Good morning, MVRHS, right? So I think that's great every morning. But so you're talking about senioritis. Do you think if we started earlier and started writing this on the board, in the morning and kind of started saying positive quotes, do you think it would transfer from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year? I know we're going to get senioritis from some kids, but do you think that might help as as the student progresses towards their senior year?
I do think that it's the positive thought and the positive habit that I was trying to create. And it also has shown that, research has shown that the positive message and positive psychology transfers into schoolwork. So kids would be more motivated to do their schoolwork and get it done if they're more positive instead of being negative all the time, especially with the attitude towards school. So I do think that it would transfer through all the grades if everyone did it.
Great.
Yes.
So my question is, you did this with your homeroom, and that's great, but did other students seek you out or say, hey, how can I be more positive? Other seniors, other students? Did this start like a dialogue among other grades or other homerooms?
Well, I don't think so that much, only because I wasn't advertising it.
Mhm.
I advertised it for probably like a week to try to get people to sign up to do it. So I would have a little test group every morning that would meet before school. But I only got probably 3 signatures, so I was like, okay, convenience, I can just do my senior homeroom. But I don't think it was talked about, but if it was advertised more, I'm sure it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And 2 questions. One, have your family and friends observed a change in your presence, attitude, demeanor?
I don't know, Molly. I'm gonna take that as a no, but I don't think they've noticed it yet, but that's yet, emphasis on the yet, because I haven't really been, I wasn't testing myself, I was more testing my homeroom. So.
And then, do you think that engaging in this kind of senior project itself has helped you with your senioritis?
I think so, a little bit. I mean, my senioritis is raging, but I think learning about why I'm feeling this and how I could change it helped me in the sense like, oh, I can actually make a change within myself if I wanted to. I just don't think I was like super like 100% like, yes, I want to stop my senioritis, but.
Do you think you would be encouraging my class, for example, to go the senior project route?
Yes, if you're self-motivated and actually are interested in the topic that you're discussing, but I would say yes, senior projects are a lot of fun and you learn a lot more than you would say like in the class.
Don't say English class, though.
Questions are open to anybody that wants to ask, so raise your hand or just ask.
Comment. Can I have a comment?
Yeah, comment.
You did a really good job, and I'm like influenced to be more positive.
That's very positive, Kate. Arden, did you find any research about how positive psychology affects sleep, especially among teenagers? Like doing the positive, doing the gratitude journal, the writing at night before bed, did you come across any research about that?
I did not look into the sleep
The sleep.
aspect of it, no.
And did you come across any sort of counter-arguments to the positive psychology philosophy? Anybody criticizing? Because it's a fairly new field, right? And I know it's garnered some criticisms. Did you come across any of them?
I haven't found any criticism for positive psychology specifically, but for the emotional like curriculum, teaching that in school, I did find people who were not like ready for teachers to ask their students to like, oh, meditate in the morning and bring that into the curriculum, but not anything that was against positive psychology.
But are you saying you found that you read some research about schools or teachers that are not interested in bringing this in? Is that what you're saying?
Not interested in the emotional curriculum, like bringing
taking it into the classroom.
Yes, exactly.
To take away from the academic.
Yes.
Could you see that, Arden? Like, you've been through this for 4 years, so what would be the drawbacks in your, not the drawback, I mean, who's against being positive? But like, just, our day and I think you even talked about, you know, hinted at trying to get 14 kids to respond. What do you think are the drawbacks? And sorry to put you on the spot, but like what, you know, after being through this sort of setup from freshman year through senior year, and do you see things that, you know, even in our system, in our schedule, and I mean, what would work and what wouldn't work from your perspective?
The only thing that I could see that would be against bringing positive psychology into the school is that there's not enough time, even though we have like 10 minutes in homeroom, right?
No,
I think that's 5. Oh, never mind. Well, 5 minutes to be positive or bring that positive thought
Yeah.
to the day. Also, I find that a lot of kids don't want to make the change, as I saw with my senior homeroom. Like, they don't want to try to be positive. They're just kind of like coasting through and not looking to change anything about how they perceive school. So that would also be another drawback.
Do you think the motivational speakers we've had this past semester help people to get a positive attitude? Do you think they're effective in this?
Well, personally, I wasn't too into the positive or motivational speakers we brought to the school, but I'm all for motivational speakers. Just the ones that came weren't really my forte. I don't know. But that's just me.
Arden, I think I was struck by how a lot of what you were talking about has to do with metacognition. In other words, like how people think about themselves, like or how much ability you have to be aware of yourself, and I guess related to that, aware of other people around you. I think there's some research about how that ability kind of changes as you get older. So, for example, like young kids don't really have as much of awareness of themselves or like their sphere around them as much as, say, someone your age. How important do you think that is as far as being a positive person to have that, like that metacognitive ability? And does it really make it, like, can you be happy without really being aware of yourself as much as, it sounded like a lot of what you're talking about was like, think about yourself and think about how you can, and what you're just saying, like, how can you be better? And you have to be willing and looking at yourself in a certain way to improve. I'm not sure what I'm asking exactly, but however you want to respond.
Well, everyone can be, like, things make people happy. That's not a new thing. But being self-aware is taking into account, like, going within yourself and digging deep down, like, what really makes you happy. Like, what people make you happy, not necessarily, oh, chocolate makes me really happy. Like, okay, but then you have to dig down and really try to appreciate those things. And I think self-awareness is, I think it's like the top level of some psychology scale. I forget what it is. It's, shoot. I don't know. But I know it's one of the last things that you're supposed to, once you become self-aware, you're like a full-formed person. So that's why I think younger people aren't as self-aware and aren't as considerate of those around them. So getting older and more self-aware, I think, would help. Or, yeah.
What type of assemblies or like school activities do you think we could do to improve positive psychology?
Well, I think that a wide range of motivational speakers would be awesome, and ones that are relatable. Like the ones that came, like, yes, their story was sad, but they're not very relatable. So if you found people like our age or people who had the same kind of experiences some of us have in high school that could talk about that and how that affected them in their lives, then that would be awesome. But not someone who had like a freak accident that you don't think is going to happen to yourself. Just something relatable. Yeah.
How do you think social media affects positive psychology?
Affects positive psychology? I don't know how.
Positivity. How do you think social?
Positivity? Well, ooh, man. If you get hate on social media, obviously that's going to bring your self-esteem down, your positivity down, your thoughts to be more negative. But I haven't seen very many like hateful things on social media recently. But obviously that's very impactful for kids these days because we're all interconnected and are on social media. So I don't know how that would how we could reverse that.
So how do you, just talking about that for a second, I read this article about Instagram with sort of your generation and how young women, girls in particular, post pictures of themselves, whether it be selfies or whatever it is, and how much the reason for doing it is to receive all the positive, whether it be the emojis or you look beautiful, you're hot, blah, 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 whatever it is, like hundreds and hundreds of that. So do you think that that is true, like that really impacts somebody? Because what if, you know, you get one negative comment versus 99 positive ones? Are they really positive, or it just seems like people go through pictures and hit the heart like over and over and over again? Are they really putting it out there to make somebody feel good, or is it just a habit?
I think it's a habit created from wanting the assurance of, yes, oh, this picture looks good, like you look good in this picture, and then so that person, it becomes a habit for them to keep posting those videos or pictures to get the feedback. Usually is positive because everyone wants to feel good, so that's why they're seeking social media to get the positive feedback. But it's only a habit, and they can change that by creating positivity within themselves, opposed to it being reliant on others.
But isn't it also just a habit to keep hitting a
Yes,
heart button
definitely.
for every
Scroll
single picture
down,
you
hit
see?
heart, yeah. But I think people do take time out of their day to write oh, you look so awesome today,
Yeah.
or in this picture. But not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not super.
So Arden, I'm going to kind of go along with what Amy said, because one of the things you talked about was that kids may not have been so positive about themselves, but they felt good about making other people feel good. I love that statistic. And do you think that the students here at this high school realize that making other people feel, feeling good is that perhaps might, or do they understand that it should make them feel good? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I could give you a perfect example, and I'll give you a perfect example. Last year, you got yourself up from a table. I happened to do lunch duty way too often. You got up, and it might have been a little bit of a thing, but there was a young lady sitting by herself at the table. You got up and brought her over to your table without even thinking twice. And I hope that made you feel good, but you probably didn't even feel good, but I'm certain that it made this other girl feel much better about herself and feel welcome. So do you think that we as a high school, I wish that, how do we make students understand that, or do you think they understand that helping other students here to feel good about themselves, like Amy was saying, do you think that they understand that?
I'm not sure if they realized it yet, but when you do make someone else feel good, it really impacts you, and maybe it may be like the slightest way, but you do get those like happy feelings. Oh yes, I did something awesome today. So if we reinforced that, oh, you want to help others, like treat others the way you want to be treated kind of thing, like in the classroom every single day, people would be like, oh, like complimenting someone really made my day, or like starting up a conversation with someone I've never talked to really made me happy. So I think if we reinforced and like started supporting the golden rule, then it would be more
Great.
seen, I guess.
We have time for a few more questions.
How do you distinguish between, like, I keep hearing the word positive, and I can imagine that, some kids, when they hear that, be positive, it might even heighten their feelings of sadness or isolation insofar as, like, everybody's telling me to be positive, why can't I just be positive, So how do you deal with that, too? Because I do think we live in a culture that suggests that we all should be so happy all the time, and if you're not happy, there's something wrong with you. So how do you, implement what you're saying, but also take into account that, there are vicissitudes, there's ups and downs, and that's okay, and it's okay,
Yeah. I think that they need to find within themselves what makes them feel good, as opposed to like, oh, this class should make you really happy, like, be happy, be positive, but it really has to come within the person, or else there will not be a change. So if we taught people to find what makes them happy and like go out and do it, then